We had some tremendous questions on the last panel, and I assume we'll have tremendous questions on this panel. We're going to do everything we can to get to these questions, but we're also going to answer all of your questions afterwards. So keep the questions coming. We really appreciate it. And we're also going to flip the switch here, and we're going to ask Rob Hooper from Nevada to begin the presentation. Everybody has about, why don't we do 7 minutes, something like that, in terms of your project, and that'll give us time to do Q&A. So thank you very much, you guys, for participating. Really appreciate it. And thanks so much. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, thank you, Norm. And it's nice to be here. Thanks for everybody that's joining us. Exciting day to get to talk about our projects here. And since I'm the first of the group, I kind of get to do the warm-up act, you know, so I bring the real smart people on after me. But I'm here today to talk about the project we have going here in Nevada. It's in early stages. It's called the Nevada Technology Corridor. I have some slides I'm going to be showing you, but just before I bring those up quickly, I believe that infrastructure is very important in the economic cycle. I'm the president and CEO of the Northern Nevada Development Authority. Our job is to bring wealth to the state, to create jobs, to keep companies here, help them expanding, most importantly, to lift up families and provide better careers and better futures for our families. So we look at economics, our infrastructure is one of the key building blocks of achieving those goals. Nevada is an interesting state in that we have a lot of land and not a lot of things going on in that land. It's a lot owned by BLM. We're separated. Our two metro areas are separated quite a bit. I'm going to pull up some slides here. There, hopefully you can see that right there. That's the state of Nevada. You can see that okay, guys?
Yep.
Good. The Nevada Technology Corridor, well, first let me get to the problem. Our two major metro areas are not connected. So you have Reno, Carson City, Lake Tahoe area up here in the north. Down in the south in Clark County, you have Las Vegas. There's quite a bit that goes on in the state, around the state as well, but those are our two major metro regions. Carson City is its own MSA, kind of a third region, but we're joined at the hip here with Reno. It's funny, I have people that will fly into Las Vegas, and they'll call me up and say, how long will it take to get over to see at your office? We'll drive right over. When I tell them 8 hours, they can't believe it. So that's 400 miles apart right there. That whole corridor has been hit pretty hard during the Great Recession. All those little rural communities out there have gotten hit pretty hard, and COVID-19 has hit them even harder. It's been interesting going through this pandemic, and you start talking about doing online education, which doesn't work really well when you don't have good broadband. So that's an issue. There's all types of things that we could do in what we're calling this Nevada Technology Corridor. But we're not connected. That's where it kind of all starts. We have a highway, but there's no rail. We're the only state in the country, I believe, that its two major metro regions are not connected by rail. And there's a lot of economic growth potential out there that could happen if we got rail in. So we have began the Nevada Technology Corridor, and this gives you a little bit better idea of where we're at. This is a north-south linkage project. You can see the little dotted lines right up there. In the north, we have Innovation Park, which is a part of the Tri-Center, the Tahoe Reno Industrial Center up in Story County. That's where Virginia City is. It's a really beautiful place. A lot of great companies up there, including Blockchains LLC, which is putting in a major development up there, has a smart city plan and things like that. Then you, of course, got down here at the bottom, you've got Las Vegas. Now, right now, we have rail that goes from Fernley area, can you see my cursor that I'm pointing right now? Is that?
No cursor.
Okay. If you can see just up from Innovation Park, there's Fernley. We have mainline rail that goes through there. And then there is the Mina Thorn branch that comes down those purple lines down in the middle, which is Hawthorne. That rail exists. Hawthorne is the site of the largest ammunition depot in the world at the Hawthorne Army Depot there. So they have good rail going down to that. After that, the rest of that purple line doesn't exist right now. It used to. We had a great rail going down there, and then they abandoned it and dismantled it, which was really a mistake. But those right-of-ways still exist. And then if you look at what's up and down that corridor right there, as far as minerals, the world's largest copper deposit is underneath Yerington there. You go a little bit further south, there's a new mine going in by Ioneer, which is the Rhyolite Ridge project, which is going to be the world's largest lithium boron mine. And as a state, we're looking at completing the whole lithium cycle within the state, from mining it to manufacturing products that use it for batteries. That's why we have Tesla here. We have, I think, 4 or maybe 5 now battery recyclers. So having a lithium mine here is really important to us. And there's just a host of other minerals up and down that line, which I won't read through the long list, but there's just a bunch of them. Of course, there's always gold and silver, but the non-precious metal minerals are very, very important. Following alfalfa, that's our second largest export out of the state. So this project incorporates a lot of other things with it. Going up and down that line, we plan to bring natural gas to these rural communities. That's a big issue. They're all working off of propane right now. And I know natural gas gets kind of a bad rap out there, but it's a lot cleaner than propane. And these folks need it out there, along with broadband and other important technologies. NV Energy, our utility, has got their GreenLink project following that same direction right there, which is bringing the vast amount of solar energy that they have out in that area into new transmission lines. So we're excited about this. Now, at the end of each end of this corridor, we're going to see an inland port development. And we have in our revised statute, Nevada revised statutes, we have an Inland Port Act, and we're actively right now going in and tweaking that to make it more user-friendly. But we already have in the north a major shipper that plans to put in a sea container facility in that Fernley area. And we're very lucky that we have all these minerals, we have all the ag within that Yerington area, because we can fill those containers going back to the seaport, so we don't have deadhead containers. So it's commercially viable. Same thing can happen down in Jean. Now, as you come down that corridor past Hawthorne, all that has to be built. We see it connecting into Jean and Ivanpah on the south. The Ivanpah Airport and everything that's planned to go on there in Clark County. Take some boring through a mountain range right when you get down past Pahrump. It's a very aggressive project. It's a very long-term project. But we already have a number of large, folks out there, large developers and rail people that want to bring their technology to the state. We already have, as an advantage, we're dual rail served by Union Pacific and by BNSF. And as far as a central location, I always like to point this out. We're a one-day truck transit to most West Coast deep seaports, not to mention all of the folks that receive freight out there on the West Coast.
Hey, Rob, well, I think your time's up. I apologize, but unless we keep it to somewhere around 7 minutes, we'll be in trouble.
So I got 2 sentences and then I'm done. 1,200 rail jobs and $2 billion worth of impact, and 4,400 inland port jobs and $1 billion impact. Those are my 2 sentences. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. And Rob, you all will have his contact information. It's already in GVIP as well. So any questions you have as well for afterwards, you can contact Rob directly. Jen, I think you're next up, and thanks so much for taking the time to join us.
No problem. Thank you, Norman. And thank you again for everyone who's joining us today, a large crowd, talking about infrastructure, both Canadian infrastructure and California and US, and all this fun stuff that we're talking about. Leading off of Rob, I want to tell you a little bit about what we do. So I am the CEO of Lattice Industries. My name is Jennifer Schmitz, and presently we're working on a project to help facilitate what Rob was just previously talking about, helping cities and industry and supply chains connect to each other. What we're doing is looking at it more from a transportation level to start with, but we're creating what will be a data exchange that actually helps institutional players facilitate the data they're going to need to exchange in the smart city and the transportation world we're looking at in the future. So with that, on the next page with our slides, what we're looking at, as I spoke, the digital infrastructure that people are talking about, people are working on, what they need, what is going to be the foundation for regular infrastructure. What we've found is that blockchains are emerging across the US as a smart city solution and platform, but they're missing a very, very preliminary element, and that is, how do we exchange this data in a fair and transparent way? How do we make it secure? And how do we make sure that we're giving people what they need? And so we've taken the model of commodity exchanges and brought it to the transportation industry in California. And what we're doing is helping to facilitate those players that have large, everybody who deals in data has large legal and contractual needs. And what we want to do is actually facilitate the industry in growing and becoming scalable by creating a marketplace where, not unlike any other commodity, they have the ability to trade that data amongst themselves and amongst the players in their industry. So initially, as we start here, we'll be starting in California, but like I said, these are very basic rules that have applied over time to many industries, whether that be oil or energy. We're going to bring it into data. We're working with our affiliates in Chicago and some other places to really look at how do we create a commodity market data contract that will facilitate the industry to grow. We have been engaged now for quite some time with the state of California's transportation authorities, who have an immediate need to work with the autonomous driving systems and their signaling and the city signaling, and exchange that data so they can have the innovation. So we're here to help them out, and we've started our project, and it's helping a lot. What we've discovered is that across the world, intelligent communities they need to exchange data. They have disparate systems. No one wants to take liability, yet everyone knows that those data silos are really where the nooks and the crannies of innovation exist. So as we work through those things, we're like, okay, now the next step is, how are we going to pay for that? So we're bringing in a model to help facilitate folks like, in Nevada or across the country and Canada, how to actually be able to afford the technology and the networking equipment that it's going to take for this far into the future. And the way that we're doing that is we've come up with things that help pay for this data, along with the contracts. But we also are working with players within the industry, transportation to start, who are going to sit around the table and become members of this exchange, who will help define the contracts and ways of which they need to actually exchange them. We are working with many blockchain, like I said, platforms that have a lot of data. They have plenty of smart contracts, but again, they don't solve the liability issues when data gets breached. So what we're doing is taking it from a public sector viewpoint and saying, what can we do to facilitate this? And what we've created is an opportunity for public-private partnerships to exist so that cities can outsource their data management to an entity of which they basically own part of. And as that entity grows and it creates clearing and services, data clearing services, a digital data clearinghouse to take counterparty risk, we actually help those and facilitate those platforms more than others that have no way of offsetting that risk, but like to take people's data and actually make money off of it. which we're seeing now becoming a tax issue, becoming a burden issue, becoming a court issue. So we're working to facilitate that across the country, starting with the transportation in Northern California. We're creating a regional data exchange. And then we're going to hopefully create another one in Southern California with the goal of connecting the two in our first statewide pilot for the information between blockchain platforms. So that's what we do. Norman, I don't know if we want to expand on that or.
We have about 1 million questions. So let's go to Paula, and then I'll put some questions to you guys in the time we have left. Thanks so much, Jen, and thanks for being time efficient. You're fantastic.
Great. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you, Norm, and hello, everyone. I'm Paula Hammond. I'm the National Transportation Market Leader for WSP USA, and I'm going to brief you a bit about the Cascadia Innovation Corridor in the Pacific Northwest. This is a cross-border effort that's been underway for about 3 years. An initiative with 7 working groups, as you can see on the slide, that's a partnership between Challenge Seattle and the leader, former governor for Washington State, Chris Gregoire, and Greg Davignon, who is the CEO of the Business Council of British Columbia. We have working groups that are oriented around not just transportation, housing, and connectivity, which is the box that I'm the co-chair of, but we're looking also at life sciences, cross-border issues, and as you can see, trying to connect people, companies, and institutions within our mega region, which spans from Vancouver, BC to Portland, Oregon. The issue that my committee, Housing, Transportation, and Connectivity, are leading, and my other co-chair is Kevin Desmond, formerly of TransLink in Vancouver, BC. So we have a Washington and Canadian paired co-lead on every one of our committees. But we're looking at the opportunities for infrastructure within the 425-mile corridor between Vancouver, BC and Portland, Oregon. Our goal is to connect and have the ability within our mega region to basically handle, but appropriately handle, and create a sustainable infrastructure and environmental livability and business climate for our corridor and the cities, both the anchor cities and the cities within. We are in a mega region, as you can see, that has 72,000 GDP per capita. We have 9 million people in our mega region. We're expecting to grow by another 3 to 3.5 million by 2050. We've had tremendous growth in the Pacific Northwest. And if you don't plan for how to handle growth, naturally what you'll see is the need for, or the evidence of sprawl that tends to happen. Is my third slide showing? It looks, oh, there it is. So we are the business arm. The Cascadia Innovation Corridor are, if you want to call us the cheerleaders or the champions of good and sustainable growth, that's what we are, while the governments of British Columbia, Washington, and Oregon, the DOTs, if you will, are working on an ultra-high-speed ground transportation development. Our interest and emphasis is to capitalize on the opportunity for truly high-speed rail in the corridor. We have a motto of Seattle to Vancouver in an hour, but the ability for businesses, workers to not just travel efficiently throughout the corridor, but perhaps live in affordable housing in one of the smaller communities along the corridor. So our concept is affordable housing in our region, broadband connectivity, and high-speed ground transportation. We can't continue to expand Interstate 5, which knits us all together today. Costs are exorbitant. Our environmental ethic does not allow us to do that. And so we're looking for this solution. This has been about a 3-year effort for the DOTs, the government agencies, where they have worked on the feasibility, the business case, and are now poised to start with government to government framework for a governance model that will continue to help develop the corridor. We're urging that we build within our challenge Cascadia Innovation Corridor a business support network, community engagement, and beginnings of the visioning for what we want to shape the future of our mega region to be, that will facilitate both family-friendly, affordable living conditions and recreational conditions, which we have plenty of, as well as good, strong business growth in the region. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions.
Well, you guys are fantastic. Thanks so much for being efficient. We have a number of questions. Let me give you one. Let me just figure out which is the right one, the best one. This is from Jeff Weston. It said, buildings are a major emitter of carbon. Are there any infrastructure projects and funds for decarbonizing buildings or entire cities? So I would think both of you all probably have a good answer to that, whoever wants to go first.
The only thing I would start with is that we are all watching very carefully the Biden administration's infrastructure plans, the Jobs Act, and the emphasis on not only equitable transportation systems, but the ability to reduce carbon, combat climate change, etc., because it's through that kind of vision that perhaps we'll start to see some federal funding that can support local investment for doing the kinds of things that are being talked about.
Yeah, Jen, it seems to me your platform is all about. That's one of the effects. So fire away.
One of we're working with some folks in California that with the autonomous driving systems that we're trying to come up with a carbon, basically giving carbon credits in a different sort of way. We need to migrate from that carbon credit to some sort of a vehicle mile traveled equation, which they've tried in the past, but unless you have true connectivity and true data, it's really hard to track cars exact miles, right? So one of the projects and one of the reasons we're into looking at data in this type of way is to take from the OEMs, share it with the public agencies on the transportation end, and then help them determine, what is the best way to quantify credits that could actually substitute for the carbon credits. And that is ideally the path that I see in the future. There is going to be some solution. We're testing it to try to see what's going to work, but there will be a migration, I feel, coming our way.
That's great. Rob, we're going to give you the last word since I know you got an important phone call, so we got interrupted, but I'll give you the last word. We have about a minute to go in this session. We were just talking about carbon neutral technologies, maybe for buildings, but if you think about all you're doing in the Reno area, you're super environmentally sensitive. So fire away. Thank you so much, everybody, by the way, for participating. This has been great. Thank you.
And thanks for letting me have this last chance. And you're absolutely correct. We have an initiative we call conservation economics, and a lot of the projects and the organizations we're working with are following that. And that's basically where the shareholder value is enhanced by doing the right thing for the environment. Yes. And you look at rail, you look at the minerals we're taking out. I know I got just less than a minute here. So one great example is a technology called Vortex Technology, which is a dry air concentrator of minerals. Uses no water, uses no chemicals, and gets 90 to 95% concentrates with ores. That's a heck of a deal, okay? Yeah. So we're seeking companies and organizations and practices that preserve the environment while returning giving great returns for the shareholders. So you're absolutely correct, Norm, and thanks for letting me say that.
No, I really appreciate it, and I love this panel. I owe Paula and Jen 3 minutes apiece, and Rob owes me 3 minutes. So there you go. But thanks so much. This has been great. We really enjoyed it. And, you know, this is rapid fire. Obviously, we're just giving people a real sense of what's available in the U.S. and how to think about the Biden administration. We have over 420 Canadian participants, I think 95% are Canadians. So it's really a fantastic way to think about North America as well. And I think, Paula, your project is obviously a Canadian project and or a U.S.-Canada project. So more interesting there. And I know Jen wants to expand into Canada and take over the world. So there you go. Anyway, thanks so much, you guys. Look forward to seeing you soon in person.